Okay, so something that I spend a bit of time on that is maybe not the most intuitive part of making anything that you think of. You think of somebody building something and they just use a tool and it automatically does the thing that it's, oh, you have it in operation for each and every um, part of how something is shaped and cut. And something that's maybe not so obvious is how to do certain operations in a way that's consistent and easy to set up. So something that I spend a lot of time on is work holding and jigs for managing the parts. So if I need to do a repeated step, I have something that can hold an odd shape. So if you have, I've mentioned in my prototyping video that you have an odd shape like this. Well, I need to hold that still, and it's no longer part of the sheet that it originally came in. So the sheets look like this. So when it's in the sheet, it's easy to manage because it's all still attached to something heavier that isn't going to move around when the router is moving around it. So what I actually end up doing is making something that can hold odd shapes or will support the piece and keep it from moving around whilst the router is moving. Because when you have a thing spinning a thing, doing all this stuff around the corners, okay, well, the router wants to push this all around, and the faster you go, and there's some odd forces, and then sometimes there's uplift, so it wants to pick the piece up or push it down. There's all sorts of things that can happen when that thing's moving around, and it's dumb. It doesn't know what it is always trying to do something, the way you told it to. So the solution to that is, if you make a slot, okay, that's fine. But again, the aforementioned, this keeps it from moving side to side, but it doesn't keep it from lifting up. So one of the things that I have done is I make basically a clamp out of a sheet of wood. So the idea is, oh, look at that. There's a slot cut in here that, and I have a screw, like a crib screw. It's like one of, yes. But basically there's you can't see it. There's one of those, it's like a barrel, and then the screw goes in there. You tighten that and it clamps the pieces in there. So I can clamp multiple pieces at a time. And then when I do that, let's say like this. So now I have the ability to hold it, and because sometimes when you're cutting, so like say this is the first side, you can cut all these features and everything on one side, but what happens when you need to flip it over? So you either have to flip the whole sheet over and cut that, like mirror everything, and everything's reversed now. So you have to account for that and make sure that fits on your machine properly, or you can just cut them all out, and then you have a work holding jig that you can just place it into. It's repeatable, and then this one's just a rectangle, so I can do both sides. So if I need to remachine something, or I need to do the chamfers on this, I have something that can hold this top or bottom. Because this is an odd shape, and because you can't just flip this one over, it's not a symmetrical piece, you need to have the corresponding other side of that. So that is a great way to hold irregular shaped pieces. This was the first one that I had made, but it's really nice and handy. That's those coffin shapes. Those are to make these things. I made bottle openers for this band called Lane Liar. I don't know who those guys are, but anyways, so what I had done on this was I needed to engrave this because it's finished first, and then you come back and engrave that. So I needed a way to be able to cut this out and do all this extra work, and then come back here and be able to engrave that. So that was why I had originally made this jig, was to fit that guy. So great way to hold odd objects and have a piece. So I can fasten this. I could just drill this down, or drilled holes, and then put screws in so this doesn't move. And then if I need to, I can just come back and put those screws right back in, and this will always be in the same location no matter what, and it's repeatable and it's a known location. So I just come back here on my confuser over here, and you can see I have a corresponding template where I can go in and tell it, where to cut and what cuts to do. And I can, I even have those slots I even cut on the machine. These ones I just did by hand because there was no reason to make those nice. But, that is my work holding. Anyways, hope you found that interesting. Goodbye.